America doesn't deserve Tim Walz. I've really come to like Tim Walz. I was unfamiliar with him, as I'm sure a lot of America was, prior to him being selected by Kamala Harris to be her running mate against Donald Trump in the 2024 presidential election season. And the way Walz has taken the defeat of this election has impressed me. And I think that his sentiment is something that Democrats need to be adopting. And we need to be taking a look in the mirror, right? With some of why the Democratic message didn't connect with voters in the way that we would have hoped it did. And, we can blame all day long, point our fingers at the voters and say, well, the voters that elected Trump are just bigoted, hateful, racist people. And whereas that may be true to a certain extent, I won't say that that's not true. To just make that statement and then just kind of leave it at that doesn't really seem like it's capturing kind of doesn't really have the finger on the pulse of America in terms of the sentiment towards the Democratic Party and the sentiment towards the government in general that exists amongst a large swath of working class people. So let's go ahead and look at what Tim Walz said here. Tim Walz says, perhaps the obvious, we wouldn't be in this mess if we had won the election. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz sharply criticized President Trump's governance style and economic policies, but said he takes some responsibility for this mess after losing in November. Look, I own this. We wouldn't be in this mess if we had won the election, and we didn't, Walz said in an interview on MSNBC's All In with Chris Hayes. Walz called Trump the worst possible business executive that I have ever witnessed and praised the Wall Street Journal's editorial board for calling Trump's tariffs the dumbest trade war in history. The Minnesota governor said he thinks that the sentiment is widespread and that Americans have had it with wealthy officials telling them they will have to endure some pain amid the president's tariff war. He encouraged fellow Democrats to capitalize on Trump's unpopular policies and make clear that the Democrats offer a better solution. We have to make sure that America knows it's not just that Donald Trump is bad, but we're offering them something better. And I think that's what we need to work on. We are offering them something better. Underline that, underscore that, because that is what did not penetrate through to voters in this last election. Look no further than the vote totals, right? Donald Trump, and I was right about this. I pounded this table and said, Donald Trump is not going to gain any support. Donald Trump has tapped out his political potential in America in terms of people who are out there that are going to jump on board with him or are already on board with him. He's tapped out. And ultimately, I was right about that because Donald Trump did not gain any new support. But what happened was that people who showed up for Biden in 2020 for one reason or another, dissatisfaction with Trump's handling of COVID, what have you, Trump's multiple impeachments that his first impeachment, they did not show up for Harris in the numbers that we needed. And there is a reason for that. And like I said, we could point to the Republican voters and just blame them. But ultimately, what I think happened is that the Democratic messaging was it put too much it gave American voters too much credit in terms of how much and how deeply they think about different systems that exist in our country. For instance, Harris's plan to give first time home buyers a cash assistance on a down payment is an excellent idea. It's an excellent idea to give first time home buyers a leg up in establishing their foot in becoming a member of the middle class, right? That would be an excellent thing to strengthen the middle class. But here's the thing: the middle class in this country the bottom has fallen out of it. And as Sanders has been saying for decades and decades and decades now, people can't pull themselves up by the bootstraps because they don't have boots, right? There's a whole portion of this country that are not making down payments on houses because they don't have any cash saved up. Buying a house, owning a home is a pipe dream, unfortunately, for many, many people in this country currently. And people are just struggling to just pay their rent, okay? And where was anything about raising the minimum wage from $7.25? The federal minimum wage has been stuck at since 2009. Where was anything about that? Where was anything about tuition-free education for every man and woman seeking to go to college in this country? There was not enough populist messaging in a day and age when populism is the kind of the thing in America currently, is populist candidates saying populist things. And to highlight that, I'm going to pull up here the responses to Donald Trump's joint address to Congress that he gave 8 days ago, I believe, at this point. And let's just look at the numbers on some of these here. So we're going to look at, first let's look at the official Democratic response, which was delivered by, Alyssa Slotkin, who introduced herself at the start of this response as a former Bush administration official. Oh my God. The amount of, I can't tell you how hard my eyes rolled back, okay, when I heard that the Democratic response to this fascistic dictator who is romping through Washington, dismantling our federal government, was, let's get a Bush administration official to respond. I mean, we all know how much all that liberals in this country all unite behind George W. Bush's administration, right? But anyways, besides that, Slotkin was chosen to be the official response giver. And look, this is not an easy job, okay? Not an easy job to go up against all the pageantry and the opportunity, the power of the pulpit, right? That the president is granted in a joint address to Congress. It's not an easy job to go and stand in front of some flags in an empty room with a camera and give a coherent response to what was the longest speech in the history of the State of the Union, although it wasn't technically a State of the Union. But anywho, the views are very interesting here. So you'll look at the official Democratic response. We got the Washington Post with 44,000 views, ABC News 385,000, AP 145,000, Okay. Um, CBS News, 78,000. Okay. Um, ABC News with almost 400,000 views. Respectable, very respectable. Now let's look at Bernie Sanders' response. 4.3 million views in 8 days. And I didn't have a chance to make a video on this when I wanted to a few days ago. But I looked at the views of this video a few days ago, and most of the 4.3 million, most of those views were basically a day or 2 or 3 days after the response. Okay, so that's at least maybe like 6 or 7 times, just doing some like quick math, 6 or 7 times the amount of people that wanted to hear what Sanders had to say versus what the former Bush administration official had to say in response to Trump. Now, why might that be? Like, let's think about it for a second, right? Is it because perhaps people in this country are largely fed up with the two political party system that has done everything it can to funnel money into the pockets of the richest people in this country? Is it because the Democratic Party, the DNC in 2016, and with Debbie Wasserman Schultz as the head, actively colluded against Bernie Sanders with the Hillary Clinton campaign to do everything they possibly could in their power to diminish Bernie's insurgent campaign at the time, because a lot of the Democrats simply were more okay with Trump being elected than Bernie Sanders being elected? Could it be that? Could it be that Sanders' consistency on speaking for the working class people and standing up for things that working class people actually support and actually want, since since the 1960s, that Bernie Sanders has been doing that every single day, day in and day out, and somebody like Alyssa Slotkin has not been doing that day in and day out of her entire career. um Sanders's messaging is where the party needs to go. It's where it should have gone in 2016. It's where it should have gone in 2020. It's where it should have gone in 2024. Maybe the Democrats will realize it's where we need to go in 2026, 2028. And as Sanders is packing I don't want to say packing stadiums, but Sanders is on this anti-oligarchy tour where he's delivering speeches to very enthusiastic crowds of thousands and thousands of people that are absolutely fed up with our current state of government and are fed up with the Democratic Party lacking a spine to stand up to the GOP and stand up to MAGA and stand up for the working people's rights, stand up for people that don't have hundreds of millions and tens of millions of dollars. I think that that's the direction that we need to go here. And the American people largely agree. And I think that the Democratic Party needs to get with the program. They slowly are. They slowly are. As I mentioned in the topic earlier about Schumer not guaranteeing or not providing the votes for to pass the House passed CR bill. But we are in a crisis moment, and this is not a normal time in American politics. Sanders has recognized that, and Sanders' response to Trump has been what people want to hear. It's been galvanizing people, and it's what needs to continue throughout this country, and which what needs to continue from the Democratic Party if the Democratic Party is to have any sort of tangible future or any sort of tangible power going forward in this country. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share with someone who's into politics. See you next time. Take care.